You are abnormal. Who knew RVPs were a little bit nuts? You have to be. You have to be in order to pull this off.
Tell me about a time where you had to make a decision where the answer wasn't clear-cut. Tell me about a situation where you were uncomfortable making a decision. How did you work through that? But also something that we really look for is
triathlete, world traveler, RVP of auto owners, Gene Haas. It's good to have you here.
Thanks, Brian. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I've only known you as RVP over our region, but there's an origin story here. How did you get started in the insurance industry?
Well, my story is actually pretty similar to a lot of people at auto owners where I just fell into it by accident. I was in retail after college and wanted to do something where I wasn't working nights and weekends, and a friend of mine who I'd kept in touch with had started working at auto owners, and he said, "This is a great company. You should come interview." So I did, not knowing anything about the insurance industry. And 22 years later, here I am.
So underwriting is where you got started?
Is where I started, yes.
So yes. Just yesterday, I met with a friend, and he wanted to do financial planning, but he said, "I don't want to be a salesman." Mm-hmm. And I asked him, "Have you ever considered underwriting?" He was like, "Well, no, I don't know anything about that." But I said, "It's an awesome career." What's it like going into that initial interview where they're trying to figure out if underwriting is going to be something that would work? Like, what kind of questions are asked of a person to see if they'll like underwriting?
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to, can you be comfortable researching and can you be comfortable making decisions? Because ultimately that's what an underwriter is. They're trying to decide, is this going to be a profitable piece of business for the company that we can write? And being able to evaluate facts, being able to evaluate information, dig when you need to, but also being comfortable making that decision when you have enough information to make that decision is a lot of what we're looking for when we're doing interviews for underwriters. And we hire a lot of people that have zero insurance experience because we're very good at teaching insurance, right? That's part of our culture.
So if somebody comes, let's pretend you have someone shows up and they seem to have the aptitude. How do you figure out a person has the aptitude to be an underwriter?
A lot of situational questions. So tell me about a time where you had to make a decision where the answer wasn't clear-cut. Tell me about a situation where you were uncomfortable making a decision. How did you work through that? But also something that we really look for is, tell me about a time you made a mistake and how you worked through that mistake and how you fixed it. Because again, we never have perfect information when you're underwriting. So you might make a bad decision, but that's okay as long as we learn from it going forward. So that's another question that we really look into.
So is this fair to say, my friend had said to me, "So would I be going and talking to business owners and getting information?" And I said, "Well, no, that's why agents exist. So agents have to go to the restaurant at, during off hours and figure out if they have sprinklers. But then the agent gets the information, in theory, brings it back to you. You have to decide if there's enough information, and then from there, gather it all and make a decision if you can offer a policy, and then what the pricing should be.
That's
Do they
exactly
deserve
right.
price? Okay. So would you say underwriting is a foundation for any insurance carrier professional where you kind of need to understand underwriting if you want to work at a carrier, or can you just do like strictly sales and not do like have an underwriting background?
Yeah, for sure you don't need an underwriting background because there's so many different facets of the insurance industry. Our entry-level positions at auto owners are, for the most part, underwriting and claims.
Okay.
And we have a lot of people that also rise up through the claims division that never worked as an underwriter to become officers, senior officers, and our current CEO started as a claim rep as well.
Oh, wow. I know claims has probably changed a lot in the last 25 years because you didn't have the internet, the resources, but whenever customers say, "Well, I had a bad claims experience or I had a different person," I tell them, I want you to imagine that every time the phone rings, it's someone who's upset. How hard is it to keep a person in that role, right? There's challenges that you have to overcome that you wouldn't in others. And so we talk about like different roles within the industry require a different resiliency or skill set or whatever.
Sure.
So I've never done claims. I wish I knew claims better. Did you do the underwriting side and some claims, or just stay with the underwriting side?
I spent most of my career in the underwriting division, a little bit in marketing. My real only experience with claims is in my current role. where I manage the claims folks as well.
Okay. So I want to hear all things RVP, but let's build there.
Okay.
So walk me through, you start as an underwriter, you've just come out of retail, you're in Michigan.
Yes.
Do you ever, like, if I would have handed you a crystal ball at that age and said, Gene, you will be in Idaho doing a podcast, but you'll live in Utah, would that have been anywhere on your radar at that time?
Never.
So how did this happen? Walk me through that.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of roles in my time at Auto Owners, and I think that's one of the really cool things about Auto Owners is we do only promote from within. So you have the opportunity to have many different roles as part of your career, but never really change companies. So I started as a commercial underwriter in our West Michigan branch. From there, I moved over to our home office as a home office underwriter for a couple of years. From there, I moved into a new department that we had at the time called Commercial Lines Web Development. So, we need to go back to 2007 when our rating systems that our independent agents use were still DOS-based.
Wow.
Based on the computer. So our job was to work with our programming team to come up with web-based quoting systems that made sense to our independent agents. So I was in that team for, I would say, probably 7 years, serving as that liaison between underwriting and IT. And that was not only was it a rewarding role, but I learned so much. Because when you're working with programmers to program a line of business, you have to dig down into the minutia of the line and really learn it. So that was a great experience.
So you're like in the Auto Owners matrix, learning how all the behind the scenes tech works?
Yes. Yeah. Wow. And all the underwriting rules too. Yes. Yeah, quite interesting.
One thing I love about this industry is that it's very hard, like retail agent sales and actuaries are like on a different planet when it comes to like skill sets, right?
Yeah.
But then there's all these other, you have IT, you have underwriting, you have account managers in an office, then you have claims teams. They're so unique, and yet they all overlap and they can talk the same language.
Yes.
So was there a time during your time with, say the name of the role again?
Commercial web development.
Commercial. Oh my gosh, Gene, you're way smarter than me. They don't even let me have passwords to my own computers. So was there, when you look back at your career, were there any moments that were pivotal where you look at a person and think, that person really helped me, gave me good advice, maybe was a mentor? Who made an impact on your career?
Yeah, one of those people for sure was Drew Clasing. He was my regional vice president in the Charlotte, North Carolina branch. So after I was in home office, I moved back out to our branch operations as administrator, and then I moved down to Charlotte, North Carolina as the underwriting manager for the state.
Okay.
Drew brought me down there, and I just learned a lot from Drew, not only in lessons that he taught me, because he was very good at giving you feedback on here's something you need to improve. And you didn't even really know he gave you feedback until a couple minutes later, and you're like, wow, I think I just learned something.
So his feedback method was helpful. Have you tried to incorporate some of those things he's done, and has that reflected in your career?
Oh, absolutely. Drew and I remain friends to this day, and it was quite a few years ago. He's retired now. But I learned a lot from him, not only from the lessons that he taught me, but just watching how he conducted himself. I would say probably once I started working for him as the underwriting manager, that was the first time I really thought, I think I could be an RVP someday. I think I could get into that role. So I, not only did I ask him questions, not only did he give me feedback, but I was always watching the things that he did to try and model the behaviors that I could see made a successful RVP.
Okay. So would you I'm trying to think this through. When you got into the industry, how old were you?
I was 27, maybe.
Okay, so 27. And then when you were in this role with Drew, where you kind of thought, maybe I could be like that someday, how old would you have been at that time?
Late 30s.
Late 30s, okay. Yep. I'm 41, but I have seen in my own career kind of that 35 to 40 range where you're going, wait a second, who am I going to be professionally? Because you don't know. I think every kid in a college classroom thinks, I'm going to be the CEO. Well, you get into the workforce and you start doing a job, and then suddenly your career's going by pretty quickly.
Yes.
So it helps to have that person you can look to and they haven't signed up to be your mentor necessarily, but just their conduct, watching them, observing them, creates a path. So was it Drew that you worked with when you decided like maybe you wanted to apply to be an RVP, or how does that work in an insurance carrier?
Well, I can only really speak for how it works at auto owners, and really not only for RVP, but really for any position that you want. The first thing you got to do is master the position you're in.
Okay.
Really focus on where you're at, do a good job, because people notice that.
Okay.
And then just let people know, hey, I'm interested in doing these other things. And there's things that you need to do before you can be an RVP. Sometimes you need to do time in home office, which I've done several times, had several roles there. Also, you need to either be in claims or underwriting, and then you also have to be a marketing rep.
Wow.
So there's many steps, because obviously as the RVP, I'm responsible for underwriting, claims, and marketing.
Okay.
And frankly, anything that really happens in the state. So having those experiences definitely is pivotal in being able to rise to that position. But really the key is doing a great job in what you're doing, letting people know what you're interested in, and the opportunities will come.
Okay. Well, I think what you're saying is really helpful, because so many people see someone at an RVP level and think, oh my gosh, like they just woke up one day and were like, poof, this polished business person. But there's a whole path that takes place.
Absolutely.
Were there any challenges that you faced along the way that maybe refined who you were or pushed you to, obstacles you had to overcome?
I think probably the biggest thing that has changed over time for me and helped me continue to be successful and kind of raise my game is just having an open mindset.
Okay.
Being able to be willing to say, I don't have all the answers. My ideas aren't always the best. Let me get feedback from others, and just being open to not only what other people think, new ideas, new perspectives, but also that I still need to get better. I still need to learn and grow. And if you have that growth mindset, there's really nothing you can't achieve, to be honest.
Nothing you can't put your mind to.
That's right.
So we're getting a full auto owner's education here, and I'm actually really enjoying this. So I'm assuming you have a CEO of the company.
Yes.
And then an executive leadership team, and then somehow there's RVPs. Walk me through that, how that works at auto owners.
Okay, sure. So like you said, we have a CEO, and then the president is below him, and then executive vice president, and then there's a senior officer team, and there's a senior officer of marketing and sales, who all the RVPs ultimately report to. Okay.
So the senior officer of marketing and sales, is that like one person that all of your RVPs would channel up to and report? And there's not like a senior officer over claims or over underwriting?
Well, there is. So there's senior officers over each of those divisions. And then within the marketing and sales division, there is a regional operations team that we report directly to. And they have a vice president, Ed Stuckrath, who then reports to our senior vice president of marketing and sales, Barry Przlowski.
Okay. I've always joked, but it's not really a joke. The reason I'm a retail agent and not a company person is because I'm not smart enough to figure out how the carrier hierarchy works. I can't even keep all the names straight because they're different for so many of our carriers.
Yeah, for sure.
As an RVP, I know you're over Idaho. You're over Utah, the state you're based in. What are there other states that would report to you, or is it those two?
Those two.
Okay.
Yep.
How many RVPs are there total at auto owners?
Oh, good question. Probably around 26. That's not the exact number. Most of our states have one regional leader. We have several of our really large states that have multiples.
Okay.
Just because of the size.
Right.
Yep.
So, recently I was looking up auto owners and just doing some research, and they said there are 26 states. And I was thinking, well, you're going to avoid the coasts and you're going to avoid high loss states, but it looked like you guys were in Florida.
Yes, we are. Yes.
That seems like it would be a challenging state. Idaho on one side of claims, maybe Florida on the other side of claims. Has there been a strategic approach to which states you might want to go into, or is there like a plan for other states, or maybe to maintain? What will the future look like?
That's something I really can't speak to. We are in 26 states under the Auto Owners brand. We also have some affiliates that were in additional states. On the West Coast, that's Capital Insurance Group that operates out of California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, and Arizona. And then in New England, we are affiliated with Concord Insurance Group. Concord Mutual is the name of that company. So they're in 4 states in the New England area. And then we also, one of our affiliates is,
You have something with
Yes.
Atlantic Casualty.
Atlantic Casualty,
yes.
Lost the name. Atlantic Casualty. So our E&S carrier, and I believe they're operating in 50 states now.
Okay.
So, at this time, we're just really trying to, expand our footprint and market share in the states that we're in.
Right.
But going into additional states, that's something that we have a committee that looks at that on a continual basis to see if that might be a good option for us.
Okay. Well, from what I've seen with some of our carriers, moving into a state is far more challenging than just putting effort into your current states.
That's exactly right.
And some of the states you're not in, you're like, it would be a mess to go into those states. I don't even know these things because I'm not smart enough to be on the legal, side of it. But working with different departments of insurance, you look at Southern California, those types of places, there's a lot of drama and red tape you kind of have to sort through. So I'm sure CIG gets to look at that, but Auto Owners is left unscathed. So Gene, I had a funny thing I saw. So CNBC, I put Auto Owners Insurance into the Microsoft version of ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And it pops up and it has some links. Well, one of them is CNBC. And it says positives for auto owners were good claims experience, accident forgiveness, and then it had some negatives. And it said, negative, must work with an agent. I was like, what the heck? How is this a
That's
negative?
That's the positive.
I know. The other negative is must turn in a claim through an agent or something like that. And I thought, these random things on the internet, you never know if they're real or not. But it made me chuckle. Auto Owners has been really committed to the agent model for a long time. Talk about the agent model, and was that always the case even when you started, and has it maintained the entire time?
Yes. So when we started back in 1916, it was through independent agents back in Michigan. And we have really maintained that commitment throughout our entire time in business, because we still believe that the independent agency system is the best system out there to help policyholders. Because you as an independent agent have choices of where to place the business. So they can come to you, you can evaluate their needs and say, okay, based on the needs of this client and their characteristics, I can find them different options for insurance rather than not having any options at all. And that's really why we feel like the independent agency system is the best way to distribute our products. Because the other thing that you give is your insurance expertise. You can talk with them, help them evaluate what their exposures are, what their risks are, and here's different ways to manage that. So we feel like that really is the best way for people to get insurance is through the independent agency system. So we definitely support that because it really is our only distribution model.
Amen. Well, and when carriers try to do direct and agent, it's a disaster. Agents just don't trust them. It's hard. It's difficult, right, to know where things stand. A lot of the time, our customers, not a lot of the time, but some of the time, they're just having a bad day, and they'll call and say, this is wrong on the policy, and we'll say, hey, let's just talk this through. Maybe let's circle back in a few days. Well, half the time they forget about it and don't even want to talk about it. But there's a human emotion side that agents get to interact with. Did your kid just graduate from high school, or did they have a really bad day? People are normal, and they have normal things happen. So speaking of normal, you are abnormal. You are a triathlete. That is, Gene, people can't do that. I could barely run around my block without dying. My quads just kill me. How did you get into that? How did you start that, and what does it all entail?
So I started, honestly, I was just looking for a hobby. And at the time, I wasn't really running, biking, or swimming. And I just decided, that sounds like something kind of cool I'd like to get into. So I just started, borrowed my dad's bike and, went to my in-laws' lake and started trying to learn how to swim off of YouTube videos. And running's easy. All you have to do is put one foot in front of the other. And it just sort of, I don't know, people that get into endurance sports, it just sort of escalates. It becomes part of who you are. So I went from sprint triathlons to Olympic distance triathlons to all of a sudden I was doing half Ironman distance triathlons. I've done a couple of fulls. And it just becomes, again, part of who you are. And then, with the triathlete, I love biking. So that sort of expanded into mountain biking, and then expanded into road biking and gravel biking. And yeah, again, it just becomes sort of part of your DNA.
Well, you sound a lot like the type of person that my dad is, because he loves exercising. If he has a day to himself, he jogs 10 miles or 15 miles on a treadmill and watches sports or something.
Sure.
So most people, though, aren't doing that. They're not watching YouTube videos about swimming. They're eating at McDonald's, right? Look at me. I mean, I'm clearly, right? So walk us through those different layers, levels of competitions, as if I was a 5-year-old. Like, tell me, like, you do exactly this and you do that. How do those things work?
The competition itself?
Yeah. Like, what do you start with, and how long is each event, and then how does it escalate?
Yeah. So I started with the sprint because I wanted to sort of kind of move in a little bit slower fashion through the triathlon ranks. So in a sprint distance, your typical sprint distance is going to be a 750-meter swim. It's going to be a 11.5 to 13.5 mile bike, and then a 5K run.
Okay.
So typically finish that a little bit over an hour, maybe hour 15, just depending. The first couple times I did it, that swim is challenging, continues to be challenging. And then the Olympic distance is 1,500 meter swim, so just short of a mile, 26 mile bike approximately, and then a 10K run. So that's, a little bit over 2.5 hours. And then you start getting up into the long half Ironman, the 70.3 and full Ironman distance. So 70.3 is a 1.2 mile swim, 56 mile bike, and a half marathon.
Say that again. It's half marathon, 75 mile bike,
56 mile bike, and a 1.2 mile swim.
Oh my gosh, Gene.
And swim, bike, run.
Oh, Gene, I'm hurting just thinking about this. How do you feel after you're done with that? Like, how does your body feel?
Tired. They have medical at the end of every race. Are you okay?
I hope they have them in the water too. I ride a pretend bicycle that sits in my house. Mm-hmm. It's a Peloton. And I noticed that what I like to do is watch like the NBA playoffs.
Sure. Yeah.
So last night I was watching some Timberwolves, Oklahoma City Thunder. I can typically ride 5 miles pretty easily, 10 miles, but it's more at a leisurely pace because you don't have an instructor yelling at you if you're watching TV. So you're just kind of doing your best. Maybe my kids are talking with me, so it's hard to, But one thing I noticed is if I jog just half a mile before I get on that bike, it's like my legs don't work. Mm-hmm. And so you must have that just at 100 times the level. How does swimming exhaust your body? Do you do the swimming first?
Swimming is typically first, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so is it more upper body, or is it your lower body tired as well from the swim?
So in a triathlon swim, you don't kick as much as you would if you were a pure swimmer because you want to save your legs for the bike and run.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it is a lot more upper body, but also it's just very aerobic because your breathing has to be very controlled.
Okay.
But you get out of the water, you got to get your legs back, get on the bike, kind of get things working again. Yeah, for sure.
Who knew RVPs were a little bit nuts? You have to be. You have to be in order to pull this off. I think that's great. I actually was chatting with one of the RVPs from Philadelphia, and he said, I can't make a meeting at this certain time because our whole team is doing this like multi-layer race where it's like 6 miles per person and you run like throughout the night. And I thought,
yeah.
Dude, Gene, that's right up your alley. I know you don't work for Philly, but you could go handle a leg of 6 miles like that. So have you ever been part of a team where you did something athletically together? I've never done that as a team, but
sure.
Have you guys ever done anything like that?
Like a Ragnar or anything? I haven't done that, but we've done rides, like together as a team. Myself and a friend of mine and my wife, we did a race in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan called the Margie Gasek.
Okay.
It's one of the hardest one-day mountain bike races in the country. 100 miles of pretty unforgiving terrain, lots of hike-a-bike. I think we finished in 22 hours and 45 minutes. So biking through the night. Yeah.
Whoa. So one thing I've noticed with the Peloton is it's easier for me to sustain myself when I'm out of the seat, but I'm not going as fast. But it's harder if I have to sit and just pedal. Somehow I don't have the same momentum. Is that a normal thing for bikes where you go slower and you can go uphill, but it's harder, like sitting in the seat's harder to maintain? Maybe I'm saying this incorrectly.
Yeah, so when the terrain gets harder, jumping up out of the saddle, quickly for a little bit, gives you a little bit burst of energy because you've got all that extra weight that you can throw down on the pedals instead of just using your muscles. So if you watch like Tour de France, when guys, try and do their breakaway, they'll jump up out of the saddle, throw the bike back and forth and really put down the power and then sit back down after that.
Gotcha.
But you can't stand up forever because that really takes a lot of extra energy.
Okay.
Yeah.
You are part of the insurance Tour de France. You need to be like the insurance carrier tour to United States, and you could be part of it. So you mentioned we were chatting earlier. You mentioned you and your wife like to travel,
Yeah.
and you even did some biking in Ireland. Walk me through the Ireland trip. Would you recommend that for others to visit?
Yeah, so we did Scotland.
Scotland.
Yeah, so we flew our mountain bikes with us, rented a camper van, and we traveled for about a week and a half, all over Scotland. Fantastic time. One, the scenery is amazing, but being able to ride your bike in another country, just that in itself is pretty cool, because it's not an experience a lot of people get.
No kidding.
And then being able to see, a country from, a van, staying in the basically their campgrounds, or especially in Scotland, they have basically open land policies. So if you just want to pull over on the side of the road and camp there, you can do that. We stopped in a lay-by one night with some other campers and stayed there. But it's just a really cool way to see a country and have a great adventure.
Okay. Well, I have not been to Scotland, but Peloton, for all the cheesy guys like me, they actually have a deal where you go to different countries,
Yeah.
and you ride with like the video. It's like this compared to actually being there.
Right.
But what other places would you recommend traveling to?
Germany is a wonderful place to visit. We visited there several times. The history, the people, the food, it's a really fun place to go. We traveled around Ireland as well. That was a really fun place. I'd say those were probably our favorites that we've been to.
Okay. So here's going to be a reverse bucket list question.
Okay.
I have thought through, where do I want to take my kids? Like, we've been to DC or New York. I'd like to go to England or Europe. But then what I've recognized is, as I get a little older, there are some places I probably won't go. I probably won't make it to Africa, as far as I know. I don't know if they'll ever make it to the middle. No, I have been to Israel, so I'll make it there. But are there places that you love going to, and then other places you may not make it to, as you've kind of sized up like different places to travel?
Places still on our bucket list would really are more, I would say probably Europe. Luxembourg, there's a half Ironman I want to do there. That's one of my bucket list races. You actually race in 3 different countries, because
That's
obviously
cool.
Luxembourg is super small. New Zealand is a place we'd also really love to visit. But that's a long, long plane ride.
It's a long plane ride.
Yeah.
You guys travel to Asia?
We've never been to Asia, no.
So from what I hear, it's less expensive to travel to Asia, but there's a different vibe. Europe,
Sure.
you feel like somebody from the EU, there's a hospital and there's a police force or whatever. In Asia, every country's a little bit different, right? So when it comes to traveling, do you ever, well, I guess I'll make 2-part question here. Do you ever read books about a place before you go there, or audiobooks, or maybe do some study ahead of time? And if not, which is okay, do you have any podcasts, YouTube channels, or books you would recommend to our audience?
In terms of travel, I don't read a lot of books. I'll obviously search the internet, look things up. My wife and I both do that. Some of that I leave to her.
Okay.
But in terms of books, just books in general.
Sure.
Yeah, there's definitely a few that I recommend. Number one is Crucial Conversations. That's something I do with, I go through with any person that comes onto my leadership team that's new to leadership.
Okay.
Because those conversations, especially as a new leader, when you've never had to have those conversations before, obviously, one, they're difficult, but 2, there's a right way and a wrong way to have them.
Right.
And this book really walks you through and can be very valuable, because basically day one as a leader, you're having those conversations, and those conversations mean a lot to the people on your team.
Right.
So making sure that you're doing them effectively is really important.
Right.
One that our leadership team probably is the foundation of the culture that we've built in our region is radical candor.
Radical candor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, it's really focused on giving direct feedback in a way that people can hear it in a way that's going to be useful to help them constantly improve and really raise that bar.
Okay. Well, so this is going to sound silly. Well, two things. Number one, Tracy McClure in our office has been invaluable to our team. She's a gifted lady who helped us get the ESOP going, and she has been a rabid fan of Crucial Conversations. So you have a kindred spirit with Tracy.
There you go. Very good.
The second thing is with Radical Candor, I've always felt like I was, there's a dichotomy of kind of maybe running away from a hard conversation and maybe running too fast into the hard conversation. I've always been a person that rushes too quickly and then has to say sorry rather than doesn't say something and has to apologize for that. So for someone like myself who maybe is more, wants to have conversations, would Radical Candor still help to refine that? Or, because I felt like Radical Candor, I'm like, would this be a bad thing for me to read? Would it make me more aggressive?
Oh, no. Yeah, Radical Candor talks about really both ends of that spectrum.
Okay.
Right? Being, again, going too fast, being too candid, right? So, in a way that's not productive, or the other way. So it is a very helpful book because it breaks it down into different quadrants, and it's definitely a very helpful book for anyone, no matter where you fall on that spectrum.
Okay. So Radical Candor, Crucial Conversations. Do you have, are you a podcast or audiobook person? Do you enjoy either one of those, or would you just prefer music in the car maybe?
Yeah, I typically listen to music in the car. Yeah.
Who's your favorite band?
Who's my favorite band?
Or a genre of music? Maybe.
Okay. Yeah. I like a lot of different genres of music. I have found, like most people, that I'm sort of stuck in my high school, middle school days.
Amen.
So, the Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Nirvana, grunge type of stuff. I still listen to a lot of that. Yeah.
Well, isn't it sad that like you can date a person to how old they are by their music? I walked into a store the other day and they were playing Avril Lavigne, and I'm like, dude, this country's back. We're here. I'm like, my kids would think this song is cool. Why? And now my daughters listen to one of my daughters enjoys Taylor Swift, and I hear the lyrics and I'm like, oh, it's so bad. But when now, why are we listening to oldies? How is that a thing?
Yeah.
Like when I think oldies, I think like music from 1955.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
I think Elvis. I don't think Blink 182 is oldies.
Yeah.
Right. So if you had to give a recommendation, read a book, go to a concert, check out a country, or maybe just some life advice as we kind of maybe wrap things up, what would you tell our audience? I mean, you have free reign to dish wisdom on us.
The one thing I would say is make life an adventure.
Okay.
That's, if you think about the things that we've talked about that I do, triathlons, biking, we mountain bike all over the place. We travel to do races. We travel to have fun. And frankly, the moves that I've made with auto owners, going from Michigan to North Carolina, back to Michigan, and now here to Utah, it makes life an adventure, and it makes it interesting. So that's what I would say is, time is short, life goes by fast. Seems like every year goes by a little bit faster, but make it an adventure and enjoy it.
Well, Gene, it's been very good to get to know you, and what you're doing in life is exciting. So I look forward to many more conversations. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Brian. Thanks.